I'm really, really pleased to present you today's speaker. I met Max through, actually we went to a camp for adults together. That's where I met him. And he was reciting a poem by the fire one of the nights. And I was mesmerized just by his talent and what he's telling in his stories. So long story short, we came to this talk, and I asked him to come and speak about the art of storytelling, because since then I've seen many of his poems, which he turns into videos, go viral and have millions of viewers being captured by what he has to say. So I'll let him speak more about that, and later on, after the conversation, we'll have time to answer some of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katya. Thank you guys for having me. One thing I like to do before I get into things is just everybody join me in taking one big deep breath in and out. If you're eating, I apologize if I just made you choke. One more time, in and out. And so I've been able to be an effective storyteller in our digital world, mostly for one reason, and that's because I'm obsessed with attention. I had poetry classes in high school that I hated, and there were old poets that I read and didn't fully resonate with, and I don't particularly enjoy going to spoken word nights and being yelled at by people on stage. But I found in today's world, where the amount of content created from beginning of time to 2003 is replicated about every 48 hours, a way to grab people's attention and keep it is rhyme and rhythm. Rhyme and rhythm make us listen in ways we wouldn't ordinarily, and that's really what drew me to poetry. And my first job in modern storytelling was when a lot of the big brands were first starting to move towards social media, and I was doing social strategy for them. And Budweiser was one of my first clients, and the job was, how do we take what they're doing, tell their story in this new medium of social and of Facebook. And they were putting their press releases out, and nobody cared. So it was quite easy in the beginning to take this large group of people that have liked Budweiser and find content that they'll find interesting. You pretty much just have to feed them content that they already like. And so that's what we did, pictures of people with beer. And then initially we started telling the story of what Budweiser did, of how their beer was made that didn't do so well. What does well in these environments is Budweiser is the greatest. And that was actually a very interesting insight that I started to see really get replicated in that world of social media, which is that it pushes us to these extremes, because everything is based on popularity, everything is based on generating a reaction out of people. And so it's not so much designed for truth and storytelling as it is for extremism. And it was one thing to watch and do that for Budweiser and Dove and some of these other big companies. But then I started to watch that very same thing happening throughout the rest of the world. I started to watch media companies behaving in the same way and stop telling stories that they thought mattered and start telling stories that would generate a lot of likes and clicks or create a lot of either anger or excitement, are the two most shareable emotions. And now that so many of these companies rely so heavily on social media for their traffic, literally, it's not just, we post the good stuff on social media that'll do well. The content we create has fundamentally changed. I've watched these algorithms and these systems fundamentally change who we are and what we believe and what we share. And many of you will also know how Facebook's out. I give lots of credit to Google as one of the only major companies to really address the filter bubble concept of making it so that when I search Israel and you search Israel, we see pretty much the same results. But most of the internet is not like that. When I go to NBC.com and you go to NBC.com, we see different results based on our gender, our demographic information, etc. And many of you know that Facebook's algorithm is completely designed to feed you content that you like, either that you like or will make you infuriatingly angry. But there's not much of a middle ground. And I'm worried for the world in that way, because if you remember that time you scrolled through her pictures for a full 20 minutes but didn't like anything. Because Facebook remembers. Facebook remembers everything you've ever clicked on, what you've hovered over, and for how long, what you like, share, and comment on, whose profiles you visited, and how deep you've gone. Facebook owns Instagram. And Instagram tracks the location of every picture you've ever taken. Facebook owns WhatsApp, and what's that but a way to track your messages back across your social graph? Facebook knows. And Facebook likes to show you content you'll like ideas you've already liked, and people with like ideas. So what happens when our perception of the world is an algorithm designed to feed us what's already on our mind, versus opening our minds, expanding our minds, and leaving our preconceived notions behind? What happens when Democrats are fed only hero stories about Democrats and horror stories about Republicans? When exactly the inverse is true too, then what happens? And it's not just politics, but any conflict. What happens when it becomes completely impossible to empathize with the other side because we're immersed in the confines of our own minds and like minds, and I want to like your mind, even if it isn't like mine, though anatomically it's almost exactly like mine, but you've been taught differently than I. Your values differ from mine, and that's fine so long as we're open to each other's sides and don't resort to clawing out each other's eyes, getting so trapped in our beliefs that we hide condemning evidence that hurts our side with secrets and lies. And if you took that last line about hiding condemning secrets and lies to be about the other side, it's not. It's about your side, and I say that to all sides. The truth matters most when it is not on your side. And don't get me wrong, social networks can be powerful forces for good, and we should empower those being silenced by tyrants, give a voice to the quiet and misunderstood. But can we get some transparency? Because recently, I've been trying to hide my browser history from everybody, just because I don't want the internet classifying me. I want to see what my world wants me to see without being encumbered by all these algorithmic biases. And my reasons for desiring all this privacy are less about what you're taking and more about what you're serving me. And I know I could turn on the tab of recency, but so long as everyone else is subject to being test subjects in digital laboratories, I'd like to keep them company. And if you're not convinced this filtration system's dangerous, think about that child growing up ingrained in ISIS and what he might think the value of a life is. And try and understand that our cultural bubble has us believing something almost as troubling. We'd be blinded to it, as with every affirmation, our beliefs would be redoubling, and I don't claim to be able to navigate this maze that I'm describing. But let's take one moment together, recognizing that our world is a story these algorithms are co-writing. So let's seek out opposing opinions actively, respect our opposition's intelligence, explore alternatives with empathy. Let's recognize the maze the web creates and acknowledge those biases. Let's never stop striving for variety, because there are some things that Facebook and this whole personalized web doesn't know. It doesn't know the emotional impact of constant FOMO. It doesn't know how gratifying it is to overcome the discomfort and truly grow. It doesn't know that there are some people I need to let go, even if I'll never stop clicking her photo. It doesn't know how badly we need voices with which we don't agree, how much the world needs empathy for our fellow human beings. Everybody thinks they're the good guy. Everybody. Everybody is not wrong because they disagree. There's tons of data to back up their side too. Our world now has so much bias that it's rare to find an ounce of truth, and the moment we stop looking for it actively, we'll lose. These algorithms don't care about bringing humanity together. Do you? Thank you. So that's, excuse me. And again, props to Google for being really the one company to have addressed this in being a massive information distribution system. And I hope that, especially after this election, we start to see more people taking it more seriously. But so then I moved on from telling people stories that they already believed. Had enough of that. But with my obsession with attention and with storytelling, I started seeing all the trending towards shorter, quicker, faster, get all of this information into somebody's mind as quickly as possible. This was before Vine and Instagram video. I started a video company called Ocho. We were going to be the next Instagram video. We rode the whole startup train. We raised a bunch of money, blah, blah, blah. What was significant about it for me was we were essentially told that, okay, if you want to have a valuable company, you need to have people's attention for 2 minutes a day. And so that's what we were told by investors to raise our Series A. That's what we needed to do. So we started doing everything we could to our product, and I started designing notification structures to take people out of their world and bring them into mine. And it works. And we could see very clearly with A/B testing and a combination of different structures and UX and UI and design, auto-playing videos would keep people in for a longer period of time. Little tweaks we made to our product had a very significant impact on the amount of time that was being spent. And it was a very weird feeling for me because I could really see this difference between what people wanted and what they'd watch. And I think we've kind of hit this point where it's a very strange place in technology where we can really get people to spend their time, to draw their attention quite easily. But there's also more regret than ever. Candy Crush and Facebook are two of the most deleted apps. It's really it's quite fascinating to me, and I started, in this world where we value time more than anything. I mean, honestly, who here gets genuinely upset when they get a phone call? Yeah, some. It's like that was the primary mode of communication for however many years. We're now genuinely sometimes upset when people are calling us because that's not on our time. We can't. I'll text you later, Mom. That's late. It's not our time. And we see Uber and Seamless and things like this that save us those precious seconds. Yet there's this entire ecosystem, apps like mine and so many others, who are competing, thousands of PhDs at once, competing for our time to steal seconds. And it made me realize that as architects of our digital world, we need to be better. Because we can be. And we can see that these systems have been designed with intricacy, so companies can keep our attention indefinitely. I don't want to keep crushing these fucking candies. I don't want these alerts to completely command me. I don't care if that panda bear is dancing. Well, maybe. With a hula hoop. Okay, this is fantastic. I have to share this with my 10 friends and 10,000 strangers. Caption, who wants to throw a panda rager? Great, let me go back about my life. For God's sakes, I'm trying to right swipe my wife. It's been 30 seconds and just 2 Facebook likes. Or is that just 2 for which I've been notified? Let me go back and check inside and see whose likes it tried to hide. They don't show them all. I wonder why. This panda's dancing. And another video plays after automatically. This one of a gopher that stage turns dramatically. It's like my attention is kept systematically raptured by algorithms that know exactly what I want. Or not what I want, just what I'll watch. And the people behind this intelligent design genuinely want to better our lives. But their bonuses just so happen to be tied to keeping time on site exceptionally high. And now even my news apps have been gamified. And what am I, not gonna click that one simple sex tip guaranteed to blow her mind? Wait, where was I? And why have I forgotten to look for that thing I'm supposed to find? And my God, look at the time. It is shocking. But somehow, yes, Netflix, I am still watching. Why do you have to ask in the middle of the show? If you were to wait till the end, I'd be way more likely to just say no, but by then it's 3, 2, 1 to the next episode, and I know I should have more self-control. But just so we're clear, you just spent $1 million producing this story designed to cut off at the end, leaving me wanting more. See, of course I want to see what you have in store. See my cursor already waiting there on the screen floor as you tease the next hour in all of its glory, and you'll give it to me, unless I actively abort. See, it seems the decision's already made for me. The countdown clock's going. There it is. 5, 4, 3. I need to sleep. But you made me want this more. This is not what I consciously signed up for when I hit play on 1 episode 8 hours ago. Architects of our digital world, you have more data, information, and control over our attention, the tools to tweak our emotions so we'll return to your experience. But is that what we should do? Or should you build digital tools so advanced they can actually enhance the world outside the device in our hands? Can you add so much value that it lets us put our phones back in our pants as fast as we possibly can? Not time-sucking, time-giving innovation. That's what it means to be truly technologically advanced. The future is not all screens. It's humanity enhanced. Thanks. And so that piece was actually inspired by a former colleague of your guys named Tristan Harris. I don't know if any of you knew him. He was in the SF office when you were here, but he's a very brilliant man who, really saw a lot of this going on. And as many of you, I'm sure, are thinking, if you processed whatever the heck I just said and rhymed, is, capitalism runs against this. We're in ad models, and there's not really, this is the world that we're in. But I'm really excited to be talking to you guys here today. I don't know if anybody is on the Android or the Chrome team, but they're we launched this video and have started this movement to really generate demand to show that what people are looking for is technology that enhances our life. Technology is amazing. We start to see these disconnect movements and people going out into the woods and going to the camps like the one I met Katya at to disconnect from technology. And that's not what this is about. Technology is wonderful. But it's what is our measure of success? Is it all about being here, or can we design technology that enhances our lives in the physical world? And I think that's what some of the greatest minds of our generations want to be doing. And actually, a lot of what I do with these videos, or with these pieces, is I turn them into short films. And the reason for that in a storytelling manner is because I personally don't want to watch a video of my face for 4 minutes. People would ask me, "Oh, can you send me this poem?" And I would write it out. And in our digital world, because there's all of that competition for our attention, I was like, this isn't the same when I write this. This isn't the same with me talking this on a screen. As soon as it enters into that digital sphere, it's different, like so many of the stories that we're telling. And so I'll show you the video that was turned into. It ended up being about would have been about a $750,000 production, but everybody just did it because they love the message and they want to see this into the world. And I hope you enjoy and tolerate that you just heard this.
Architects of our digital world, stop, be better, because we can be. And we can see that these systems have been designed with intricacy so that companies can keep our attention indefinitely. I don't want to keep crushing these freaking candies. I don't want these alerts to completely command me. I don't care if that panda bear is dancing. Well, maybe. With a hula hoop. Okay, this is fantastic. I have to share this with my 10 friends and 10,000 strangers. Caption, "Who wants to throw a panda rager?" Great, let me go back about my life. For God's sakes, I'm trying to right swipe my wife. Huh. 30 seconds and just 2 Facebook likes. Or is that just 2 for which I've been notified? Let me go back and check inside and see whose likes I tried to hide. They don't show them all. I wonder why. This panda's dancing. And another video plays after automatically. This one of a gopher that stage turns dramatically. It's like my attention is kept systematically raptured by algorithms that know exactly what I want. Or not what I want, just what I'll watch. And the people behind this intelligent design genuinely want to better our lives. But their bonuses just so happen to be tied to keeping time on site exceptionally high. And now even my news apps have been gamified, and what am I, not gonna click that one simple sex tip guaranteed to blow her mind? Wait, where was I, and why have I forgotten to look for that thing I'm supposed to find? And my God, look at the time. It is shocking. But somehow, yes, Netflix, I am still watching. And I know. I should have more self-control. But just to be clear, you just spent $1 million telling me this story designed to cut off at the end, leaving me wanting more. See, of course I want to see what you have in store. See my cursor already waiting there on the screen floor as you tease the next hour in all of its glory. And you'll give it to me, unless I actively abort. See, it seems the decision's already made for me. The countdown clock's moving. There it goes. 5, 4, 3. I need to sleep. But you made me want this more. This is not what I consciously signed up for when I hit play on one episode 6 hours ago. architects of our digital world. You have more data, information, and control over our retention, the tools to tweak our emotions so we'll return to your experience. But is that what you should do? Or should you? Build digital tools so advanced they can actually enhance the world outside the device in our hands? Can you add so much value that it lets us put our phones back in our pants as fast as we possibly can? Not time-sucking, time-giving innovation. That's what it means to be truly technologically advanced. The future is not all screens. It's humanity enhanced.
So that needed to, like, I mean, in the art of storytelling and how we do that today, like, I think it's the amount of effort that takes to have a message like this break through is really, it's significant. And, I don't have the A/B test of this is me saying the poem and this is the whole production of it. But it really is, it takes really a lot of work that most people maybe don't have time or resources to do to really get messages of substance across when they're not extremist messages. I'm not talking into the microphone. So that's one example, and we'll show you some others in a little bit of how I went about turning these poems into videos that could survive in today's ecosystem. But also, one of the reasons we created this was to drive traffic to this movement and to this website. And on that site, like, one thing, I don't know if any of you knew Tristan, but one thing that I really think about what he's talked about in his movement, he's very good at articulating the problem, but not so great at articulating what could be. And so we also wanted to make some examples of design solutions that really shift the focus from measuring time spent or measuring the most the basic metric, which is, and again, technology is wonderful, technology is amazing, it does its job, but as we move into this next level of how we're communicating and how we're interacting, can we do something more than the basic function of the technology? And so I'll show you a couple. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, full screen. There it is. So a couple examples that we either found out into the world and we're presenting as possibilities for how technology could maybe work better. And being in this room, it would feel like a missed opportunity to not show them to you here.
If you're like me, you've too often been sitting at an airport or crammed onto a middle seat of a plane at some horrid hour, either late at night or early in the morning, and you're thinking to yourself, why didn't I just spend those extra $40 on that other flight? We like to think that we're making conscious choices, but when we're all in a rush, the more we rely on the menus in front of us. Hipmunk is a travel website that recognized this, and they let you sort choices by human values. It's not just price or duration, but they let you sort by agony. They do this because they ask themselves, what is sorting for a price or duration about? It's not just about the raw numbers, it's about the human experience and values behind travel. So it's important to ask ourselves, what are the human values at stake in this choice? Another example where technology can help us live by our values could be when you're looking for directions from point A to point B. Of course, we know we could walk, but what if, since you've told your phone in your settings that you've been wanting to exercise, it put a choice on life's menu that said, or you could walk, and here's the fitness goal you could achieve by doing so. Or maybe in your settings, instead of valuing exercise, you've said you valued productivity, so it offers up a podcast you might like to finish in that time. 28 minutes left in the podcast, 30-minute walk, it's on your team. There could be menus that sort choices by what matters to you. We can upgrade the goal from getting to point A to point B efficiently to getting from point A to point B well. And remember, no one decides what well means to you but you. What if technology was on your team to help you live by your values?
And I'll just take through, I think there's 2 more quick videos. But really, I think that one does a great job of that shift, of to really be thinking about how does this affect me as a person and in my world. And what that will require with our devices is really developing more of a relationship with them. Of, I have to tell, maybe in the setup of my phone, there's much more integrated than, hey, here's your name, here are your connected accounts. It would be, my phone could help me live the way I want to live. That's what I want to see in the world. This one I think is very, I'll just let it speak for itself.
Right now, we often lack choice in technology when we relate to other people. Let's look at an example of messaging, interpersonal communication, or chat. We all face this situation where, let's say there's two people, Nancy on the left and John on the right. And John remembers, I need to ask Nancy for that document before I forget. And there's this all or nothing choice, because if he doesn't ask her right now, he is going to forget. So John either holds on to that thought and is left with the burden on his mind of remember to ask Nancy, or he can get it off his mind and interrupt Nancy. So what does he do? He bulldozes her attention. And that's what we're doing all the time. We're bulldozing each other's attention with text, with chat, messaging, and all sorts of digital interpersonal communication. And every time we do that, there's a serious cost. There's a woman named Gloria Mark at UC Irvine who does this research on interruption science. And her research shows that it takes us about 23 minutes on average to resume our focus after being interrupted. It also shows that if we get a whole bunch of external interruptions in an hour, the next hour will self-interrupt ourselves more. And maybe you can relate to feeling like you've lost your whole day to a combination of interruptions and self-interruptions. So how do we fix this? Let's say we introduce Nancy with a new choice, and Nancy can mark that she's focused. Now John still needs to ask her for that document, except now when he hits send, he sees that it will hold the message and deliver it as soon as Nancy is no longer focused. Now you're all probably thinking, wait a second, Nancy would never do this because she's worried she's going to miss something, and what if there's something important or an emergency? But what if that's all communicated up front, and she knows John has a way of escalating any message? She can be focused and know for sure that if something important comes in, she'll get the interruption she needs. What this creates is instead of mindless or accidental interruptions, there's conscious interruptions, right? It's also changed the design question. We've changed the goal from let's make it really easy to send a message to one another, which is a pretty good goal, but we've upgraded that goal to help people communicate with each other well. What if technology was on your team to help you live by your values?
I'll only make you guys watch one more.
To help us better understand our relationship with modern technology, let's look at this groundbreaking study about bottomless bowls of soup. We all think we're completely in control of how much we eat. But there's this study in which one group of participants is given a regular bowl of soup, and the other is given a bowl with a tube underneath that constantly refills the bowl so it never ends. The group with the bottomless bowl eats 2/3 more than the group with the normal bowl. The researchers concluded that the amount of food in front of us has a big effect on how much we eat. And so a lot of technology feels like these bottomless bowls of soup, right? These never-ending feeds in which we end up spending so much time. So how can we fix this? We can restore choice by asking people how big of a bowl they want. So what if technology were designed differently and was conscious of how much time we wanted to spend with it? What if I could select the emails that are time well spent for me to work on right now, and after selecting how much time I wanted to spend, say 30 minutes, it created a focused environment for me to accomplish what I set out to? What if my browser was on my team, and I could mark certain websites so when I went there, it would ask in the first visit of my day, how much time do you want to spend on this website today? And then the next time I went, it could highlight and ask for a quick confirmation that I want to spend more than the amount of time I selected originally. So in this example, technology helps us replace an impulse with a conscious choice. What if technology was on your team to help you live by your values?
And so I think those are some interesting, and obviously there are things we're not thinking of, there are reasons that these can't be, et cetera, et cetera. But the important point that I want to get across is really this rethinking of what the design goal is. Technology has done an incredible job of connecting us and providing all of these services, but as we move into this next phase and start to think about how our future is going to be impacted, it's like, how are we designing technology to enhance our humanity, and can we upgrade those goals? And so I'll move on from this topic, but the reason it's so important to me is because I know where we're going, and you guys know where we're going better than I do in terms of VR and beyond, and what the next steps of these sort of engrossing, engaging technologies are. And I'm personally extremely excited for the future of VR and that level of storytelling. Right now it feels a little bit more like theater than it does for really movies in terms of you're able to create these dynamic experiences. And I'm very excited to play with that. I've also seen, I think actually some work you guys are doing of doctors training each other on virtual patients so they don't have to practice on real people. There's similar stuff going on with athletes. Like that concept of using virtual reality and beyond to train for the real world is astounding. And the opportunities to collaborate, the opportunity for this empathy driver and machine is really just exceptional. I can be a Syrian woman, and that's a pretty exceptional thing that technology can allow and create that empathy. But with what I've seen and what I've done in terms of hooking people in and keeping attention for as long as possible, I'm also worried how those mechanisms will translate into VR. The dancing pandas are going to get way more engaging, and you'll be able to touch them and smell them and hug them. I want to touch and smell and play with pandas. Anyway, side note. But so I was actually at Disney World as an adult, which I don't recommend. But it was, they have some very basic version of VR. You put on a headset, and then one thing they do so well, Disney doing their experiences so well, is they take you through the Little Mermaid. Disney fans, yeah? Oh, not so many. All right. Well, tolerate me. It was you dive into the Little Mermaid, and they drop water from the ceiling. And and I absolutely expect VR to become more and more indistinguishable from reality, and this was just like a little taste of what that could be like. They were blowing wind in your face. They were putting smells into the room while you were in this experience. And I just felt like I saw the future at Disney World, and it wasn't real. Or not real like I know real, or we've defined real. But I dove into that virtual sea, and I felt the water splash across my face. I heard the ocean in my ears. I saw a mermaid singing right in front of me, and I could touch, right through her. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? And I can't be the only one to see the irony that she wants to be where the people are. She wants to see them dancing. But as a representative sample of supposed to be dancers, we're fine, thank you. Content here in our minds, thank you. Let's turn reality to setting 259, thank you. Walking around on those, what are they called again? Who remembers? Scene changed behind Aladdin and Jasmine on that magic carpet ride. And as I'm marveling at this new fantastic point of view, I realized love could live here too. I could build a whole new world with you, an adventure with you, fly through skies of green and trees of blue, this shining, shimmering, splendid gift. Is now available for just $19.99 when Squarespace meets Oculus Rift. Scene change to the African plains to where Simba and Nala are playfully playing. So close that I'm literally part of their game, though I can't quite feel the wrestling. Not yet. But give it time, we're still developing. We'll make simulations much more like the real thing. You'll have complete control over everything because we just can't wait to be king. We just can't wait to rule over the worlds we create rather than participate in this one we share. And we will be able to build our own world soon. Let's have tea in Morocco this afternoon, and this evening I'll build you a palace on the moon, and we'll sip soup on silver spoons, and for dessert, we'll have gravity removed and float through the cosmos with oxygen tubes. I've rejiggered the physics on Mars and Neptune to make them more suitable for you, because our minds rules. Worlds, they have different rules. We're no longer bound by atmosphere, nature's limitations wiped clear. You can turn people on and off in here. So by reality setting 8,365, my world's only touched by those I decide. I'm completely immersed in the confines of my own mind, opposing ideas left swiped aside. But maybe eventually we'll come to find that we needed each other this whole damn time. Maybe this world we're the tiniest piece of has a system of balance we won't possibly dream up, pushing us somewhere we won't consciously scheme up. Maybe we shouldn't have all this power. Maybe going forwards is backwards. Maybe we should go lie in the grass and make love without glasses, even if it hardly stimulates orgasm. Classic. I want to be where the people are. Up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun. Wish I could be wandering free, part of that world. Thanks, guys. And I want to caveat that that poem is more down on VR than I am. I'm pretty excited about it, but yeah, and that's losing that shared sense of reality is something I'm very worried about with a combination of all these systems coming into play and where we're going. And you guys have already taken great steps to help keep that together, and I hope you'll continue to do it. If you have more questions about time well spent, et cetera, I'm happy to answer them and sign up anybody who wants to be a part of it. And I just hope that we can ask ourselves are we creating scenarios, algorithms, and systems that we will be proud to have spent time in later. Thanks very much. I think Katya and I are going to do a little Q&A. Thank you.
We have a microphone right there if you have questions. I've prepared a few for Max as well, just because I couldn't wait to ask him those in front of people. So let's go first.
I really liked one of the demos you had on Time Well Spent, where it asked you at the beginning, how much time do you want to spend on this? So it got me thinking, what if instead of asking people up front how much time you want to spend on something, we started showing them how much time they actually spent on things after the fact, saying, hey, today you spent this many minutes on Twitter, and this week you spent this many minutes on Facebook. So I feel like people don't actually know how much time they're spending on these things. I know that when I started trying to keep a personal budget years ago, the thought of saying, oh, I'm only going to spend this much on something was a little terrifying. And I thought, if I just start knowing where the money is going, that's not so bad. And that was like the thin end of the wedge. So I'm wondering if you think that would work.
Oh, you can hear me here?
Yes.
Probably should have had that on the whole time. So I think that's great. And one of the reasons, so within this movement, one of the reasons that Apple and Google have so much power for great opportunity to change is that it's one thing if there's like an app or a service that does that, and how it can feed and how much it can really read and how much data it has access to is very limited. But someone like Google, where it is in charge of the operating system, can actually monitor very much how much time people are spending on each thing, and can give you much more powerful insights on how that might work. So I mean, absolutely, I think some integration of those two ideas could be really powerful, and maybe it's, oh, you've indicated you've wanted to spend like 10% less time on this service. Like, would you like us to enact that? But I love that concept. Yeah, absolutely.
How big is your team, and what is your primary role on your team? And also, where do you get your inspiration for poetry?
So the Time Well Spent team is like a combination of former technologists, storytellers, really anybody who wants to be a part of it. To be totally honest, it is just kind of getting its organization together. But it's probably about 10 people who are involved in committing time to it. But it's not a full-time, no one is full-time on Time Well Spent right now. And then primary focus is really to inspire this change. It's like, if you guys want to do a workshop with Tristan and some of these other minds who are better than mine in this to brainstorm ideas on how to create products that are more like this world, that's part of the primary focus. It's also creating more and more demand for this movement. And there's a section of the site for designers and developers that's design principles that can help you create time well spent products. But really the primary goal is education both on this topic and on solutions, on ways that we can build technology that enhances humanity. Poetry. I am obsessed with that question because and ironically, I waste an inordinate amount of time because the best poetry I've ever written has come to me in moments of oh my God, and I will write for 30 minutes and it'll just sort of come out, and I'll have 3/4 of something great written, and I can sit for 3 hours and have garbage come out. And so I'm super fascinated with how to actually tap into that process. It seems to be a combination of the world feeding you opportunity, but then I have found more and more that same time every day, being diligent and just taking the time to practice just helps all of the other things cognate and create more of that moments of inspiration. And sometimes you might not feel inspired, but 20 minutes into writing, you realize that first 20 minutes was garbage, but you got to the good stuff. So just starting and doing, I Hard for me too, but is definitely one of the things that I have the most control over that creates inspiration. Thank you.
Wondering if you had any thoughts on depth and journalism in terms of attention. So if you're like me and someone forwards you an article from The Atlantic, you're like, right, it's going to take me 2 hours to read this. There's no way I'm getting through it. You move it to a tab and never get back to it. And something is very lost, right, obviously. And I obviously, like over the last however many years, people are getting less and less able to read things or interested in reading things that are that long, right? So do you feel like for content creators who want to give a sense of depth, they pretty much, I mean, society has kind of gone this way, right? So what do you think the role of kind of, as a content creator, should someone fight the good fight, keep producing the depth, whether it's journalism or whatever the subject is, or realize attention is lost? If you want to convey a deep subject, you have to give it in little chunks that people will digest.
Do not stop fighting. Please don't stop fighting. Oh, what a sad world if everybody has stopped fighting the the fight of telling real stories and in depth and reason, and these systems do not do a great job of promoting reason. I think, and this is part of where I am, I am working and helping to lend my skills, is that I think the combination starts to be necessary. It's how do we hook people in with something big and shiny that will let them digest something else in more depth. We're lying to ourselves if we think we can just put out a 20-page paper and think it will get any sort of mass awareness. But at the same time, the world needs reason, and the world needs this level of science and thought and understanding. In my utopian vision for how news and media works there, right now, truth has been pretty much, truth is no longer appears to be the highest variable. The amount of error in all, it's ridiculous. A time well spent news, whether it's app or platform, that really, will need to have that level of, depth and fact checking in it. And I do believe that, if we can truly trust the source, and if we have that sort of relationship with our technology and with our news, which we do not right now, that this is giving me something accurate, this is giving me something unbiased, I'm going to learn from this. I think that we can start seeing, how does news fit into our lives? That is not the question that is being asked right now. Right now the question is, how much news can we cram down your throats? It's not how can news enhance our lives, how can it enrich our understanding of the world? We desperately need and this is sort of a bad example, but kind of like a Spotify for news with way more in-depth fact-checking and a lot going on the back end. But something we can trust that will give us unbiased and real information, and that we know if we're going into depth on something, it's worthwhile, that we can create that shared reality. But your challenge as a content creator is it's real, and it's because we live in this ecosystem that we do. It's really hard to get long messages and messages with a lot of thought, and even Medium articles in 10 minutes. It's really hard to get that out. But I think it's just of the utmost importance that we don't give up, and that we in this room and in this industry create systems that allow the better spreading and sharing of that real information. Because the demand, as we've come so far in one direction, the demand is going to be there, right? Because we've reached this point where nobody knows what to believe or who to trust or what's going on. The time is now for reliable sources to start really popping up and to create that structure. So I think we're in I hope we're in the depths of the worst of it. But please don't stop trying.
Yeah, if somebody starts developing the focus button, I'm very happy to test it. All of you. Okay. Yeah, we have a few more questions. Great.
Hi.
So 2 questions. First of all, I understand it's very early for this group, but why not, what I haven't really heard you say is, we're going to make this, it's a Chrome extension, you can do that, as opposed to lobbying. I think, I'd be interested to get your take on that. And, I very much see the utility and the necessity for these products, so that's my 2 cents. And also, what's your point of view on the kind of fact that today we have so many tremendous free services, yet what you're proposing is going to curtail user value, and that conflict?
Yeah, great questions. So first, that was my first question to Tristan too. I was like, so, okay, like go build this thing. And his answer to me was pretty much just like he felt the opportunity for success was greater in lobbying than it is in building because of the required network effect and the amount of sort of data and collection that it takes to do it right. It's like when a lot of these ideas work if like it works perfectly on both sides. It's like the process of getting up to them like is pretty ugly. So I think the reason that it's more been about lobbying than creating, and I think Joe Edelman, who is the former Couchsurfing CTO, did build a version of that extension of like that can save you that time, or like tell you how much time you want to go to a site, and I think he did build that. But it's also there's not that much mass awareness of the problem too, right? Like it sort of takes seeing what's happening and that back and forth, and it would be nice for a larger provider to be like, hey, would you like us to protect your time? And then in terms of like the payment aspect is a critical piece of these, and I personally both believe and hope that we will start being much more willing to subscribe to services as we understand the value they can bring us. I would absolutely personally pay for this system that would where my technology is actually taking care of me and helping me live by my values. Right now we are in this sort of mess of nobody wanting to pay for anything, and it's all then we rely on advertising, and when we rely on advertising, then it's based on how much time we spend to create that revenue.
But I was asking more about like not so much about how time well spent gets compensated, but how you see the conflict playing out with the Facebooks of the world today, because if you're going to create something that pushes users away, they're not going to take that line.
I mean, I don't know if time well spent ever makes money, but I'm talking about like if Facebook were to offer me a paid service where these algorithms are all working in a way that support my values, that's what I'd be willing to pay for. Sorry if that was unclear. But like I hope we move in that direction. One of the problems is to do that, you sort of have to admit what the other thing is, and that's some gray area. But I really hope that we start seeing these the moment I see that option to like pay for something that's really taking care of me, I will jump on board and I will be making videos for why it's so important in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh no, great.
Apologies if it's a bit off topic, but you did mention a startup that you were working on. And so whatever happened to that, and what are the most important lessons that you learned from your experience?
So yeah, that was it was called Ocho. It was an 8-second video platform, and it was they're still they pivoted and are about to be. I don't know if you guys have heard of Patreon, but it's like a service that like funds creators and tries to take advertising out of the picture and have fans pay creators directly, and they're starting to enter that space. I just changed what I was going to say because I saw a camera, but they it's a really tough space. Like it's a really tough space. We got in with like super big eyes and thinking like, we're the Instagram for video, and quickly learned how challenging it truly is to, in 2014 and 2015, to create something that plays video at bandwidths is really a challenge. But so what I learned was how long the process is and how quickly the big guys are to adapt and move into market. And it also, for me, the biggest learning was this is not what I want to be building for humanity. And I'm proud to say they're shifting in a different direction too and trying to step out of that ecosystem. But yeah, those were the big learnings for me.
So we're almost out of time. We have one more video, which is one of my favorites, actually, that I just wanted to close up with. And then you'll have a few more minutes to talk directly to Max, if you would like to.
You want to do Subway Love or Stop Making Murderers Famous?
Subway Love. Let's end up with love.
Okay. So this is pretty unrelated to anything that we've been talking about, except this was the first thing that I put out online. It was born out of that same, I'm good, I'm mic'd, born out of that same concept of wow, I've got this piece. How do I make this actually spread, and how can I make it be understood? In retrospect, if I were redoing this again, it's not catchy enough and fast enough at the beginning. It won't grab you in those first 3 seconds. It was really interesting. So, I mean, you guys probably know of Facebook's war against YouTube. I found with this video, I knew I needed my first thing to be on YouTube. Facebook views, what do they mean? You know, they're not worth anything. But so for this, I wanted to do it on YouTube. I knew Facebook was at the time punishing YouTube videos and squeezing the pipe on them. I did not realize how much. If my friend shared this, and then their friend shared it, and then their friend shared it, so at the 3rd degree of share, I'm pretty confident that 0 people were seeing the video. So Facebook had literally brought the pipe to no distribution at 3 shares because it was not in Facebook's best interest for YouTube videos to be going viral on the network. There was a time before this where Facebook loved YouTube videos, and that was when you saw most of the 100 million video things happening. But as a content creator, it's right now I'm sort of a slave to Facebook because that's where the views come and where it's pushed. And I wish it were not that way, but it's the truth right now. Let's enjoy some unrelated love poetry. We stand an army of urban soldiers waiting for the train. Our feet teeter onto the restricted yellow paint, contorting our bodies into cranes to look past the backs of human beings in search of this speeding metal thing. When it reaches the station, we'll step inside and it will take us to our destination. But we hardly wait with patience. You should see the frustration on our faces. How dare it not have arrived at this place yet? We won't sit complacent. We demand cooperation from the MTA agent with pure depression on her face, who just so happens to be powerless in her current situation. What we don't see is the tragedy at play, as the love of each of our lives is standing just an arm's length away. We won't notice today. We see our soulmate as in the way of the beam of light we hope will display, indicating our train is not 6 but 5 seconds away. If we would only turn and face each other, we might catch eyes, and to our surprise, the anguish of waiting might subside. We might not be so terrified of being late to work this time. Our jobs that make us sigh and cry, we might stop and reanalyze. We might, I hope, even decide that we could make better use of our time. We could enjoy this mariachi band. Come take my hand and let's pretend these fluorescents are the moon and this grimy subway floor the sand. Let's just dance. Before we stand clear of closing doors, let's take a second, break the norm, let's fall into each other's arms and dance across the whole platform. Let's lose ourselves, we move ourselves in tango, salsa, blues. Our shells come off, reveal two humans soothed by having stepped into the groove of subway love. So when that train finally does come, we'll get on, my dear, as one, and having so much fucking fun, we won't stop dancing till we're done, until our feet are red as plums and we've laughed so hard our cheeks are numb. And having felt the energy radiating off of you and me, our fellow passengers will be ready and psyched to heartfully join the choreography. The whole train car will bounce with glee, we'll miss our stops physically, but won't miss them if you know what I mean. And then we'll finally take our seats in Brighton Beach, Jamaica, Queens, the Rockaways, or wherever the hell we may be. And you'll rest your tired little head on me, and our smiles they'll beam as we look back on how eagerly we awaited this train to take us away from exactly where we were supposed to be. Thanks, guys. I'll be hanging out if anybody wants to talk, questions, etc. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, everyone.